Do you think Ukraine is moving in the right direction in terms of reforms?
Yes, I think so. The scope of changes which Ukraine faced within the last 3-4 years is quite big one if we compare to the previous periods of its history. However, certainly it could be done more, and there are certain dissatisfaction with the speed of reform and maybe the scope of changes. And the problem is that there is a lack of trust to the government, which creates not very favorable atmosphere around the changes. So there are many changes, there are many policies which move Ukraine forward. However, it is not sufficient enough to ensure irreversibility of changes. It is not enough to ensure people will accept and will recognize success.
What are the main obstacles to reforms in Ukraine?
Usually, when people answer this question, they say about politicians, because politicians are still not successful enough to prove that they are on the right track. However, I would respond in a different way. I think that quite a big obstacle is people and their habits. Because people used to live in the different circumstances, in the different legal and practical environment. And it is not easy to change the way people used to live for decades, for centuries maybe. And so sometimes their habits are not much compatible with the norms and rules which Ukraine needs to introduce. So there are lots of resistance within the society, and sometimes Ukraine just doesn't have enough skillful and knowledgeable people who really not just know the theory, but also can implement reforms and can live within the new framework of rules. So that is why the problem is not just simple with the politician, but also there is a time to educate people, to change their perceptions, to change their style of doing things sometime. So that would be a complex problem which takes time, but anyway, without that there is no profound reforms.
How can the West best help Ukraine?
I think, first of all, the West should have a realistic vision of what's going on. So there should be no illusions that the problems which Ukraine faces may be changed overnight. So that will be a long story of transformation, which will bring new qualities at each stage. However, there will be no miracle, and there should be hard work and understanding from the West that there will be no miracle. So the people are ready to work, but the West should help Ukraine to build sustainable long-term policy which brings effects of changes. And then to help to work with those social groups and the political groups, expert groups who are really fundamentally important for various reforms, to identify the centers for reforms. And one more thing, I think that the West should coordinate its efforts, because certainly the West is a concert. It is not one single object, so Ukraine would benefit a lot if there will be a concentrated efforts from different states, also international organizations, and non-state actors as well.